What's going on, guys? Happy Sunday. Well, it's Sunday for me. Happy Monday or Tuesday or whatever day it is for you guys. I hope you're having an awesome day. Today we are going over the Hill Topper Folder mountain bike right here. So this is the second bike from Hill Topper that we've reviewed. I recently reviewed their City Ultra here just about a week or so ago. And this is pretty much a direct order only company. These guys do have about 50 or so physical dealers around the US, but most of their sales come from online. It's pretty much a direct order only company. Yeah, so this thing only comes in one frame size here. This is a 16-inch frame. It only comes in one color. It comes in this blue right here. And this company, Hill Topper, these guys started quite a while back, for this industry. These guys started in 2008, and when they did first come out, these guys were a kit bike, exclusively a kit bike, and actually Court reviewed one of their first kits way back when. I think it was in 2014. So in the beginning, these guys would offer, basically just this front wheel with a motor in it. They'd offer a battery like this. They'd offer some mounting brackets, the wires, and then what the customer would do is they would put it on the frame of their choice. But recently, starting I think last year in 2017, these guys actually kind of got into the full electric bike market. So now they offer the City Ultra, which is the other bike that we just reviewed, and then this one right here, the Folder mountain bike. And since this is a primarily a direct order only company, again, about 50 shops nationwide, which isn't that many, so unless you guys live near one of these shops, one of the things about getting this bike is there's really no way to test it out, before you buy it. And I think especially with a bike like this, that again, it only does come in one frame size, and unlike the City Ultra, the Folder mountain bike does not have an adjustable stem to kind of compensate for kind of changing the reach. And also, just real quick, this seat post, this is as low as it goes. It's not a seat post that goes through the frame and can extend out beyond the frame here. That's it, so again, kind of limiting here. But yeah, the flip side of that is this thing runs for $13.99, and I think in my experience, what I found with these direct order only or primarily direct order only companies is that's kind of the biggest benefit. I mean, this is still, I would say, kind of in the higher end of the entry level electric bikes, and that's kind of the biggest pro that I'm going to be able to get from a direct order only company is better price. But there's also some kind of caveats that come with that. There's some potential downsides. First and foremost, first I have to put this thing together, and these bikes from Hill Topper are not, honestly, they're not that easy to put together, guys. This took me quite a while. The first one, especially the City Ultra, it took me quite a while to get that together, kind of figure out how things went. There are instructions that come with it, but honestly, the instructions aren't super clear. So this one, thankfully, didn't take me as much time. And one of the things this review is we're going to review this bike, but I also am going to call out some of the points for assembly that I found kind of tricky, and hopefully save you guys some time with that and maybe some frustration on your end, just so you can kind of get an idea of how to put this thing together as quickly and easily as possible. Now, the other potential issue that comes along with direct order only is sometimes some of the components can get damaged in transit. Sometimes pieces don't fit quite right. As far as fit goes, I would say this bike does fit pretty well. Everything went together as far as the fit goes relatively easily. There are fenders that come along with this as well, these plastic fenders here. Yeah, so these are the plastic fenders. They attach with these little points right here with zip ties, but I ended up using most of the zip ties to actually secure the cables with this. So I kind of ran out of the zip ties here for that. But yeah, so it has to be assembled, and there can be some damage that comes along with this. And actually, that was something that I found with this bike. So check this out. The front wheel here, the alignment, the wheel is pretty wobbly. It's rideable, so I'm going to continue this review. But if I actually got this bike, I would send this wheel back. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on real quick so I can show you guys. Oh, it already is on. Okay, so check this out. Let me see if I can do this one-handed here. Yeah, there we go. You guys can probably see the wobble there. It's more pronounced as I'm riding. I can definitely feel it. Again, it is rideable, so I will continue this review, but and that's not really the fault of Hill Topper, in my opinion. That's just kind of the name of the game with direct order only. Sometimes stuff gets damaged in transit, guys, and so again, I just want to kind of really call out everything about this bike, really try to convey to you guys my experience with this direct order only stuff, because you know, for a lot of you guys, this might be kind of the only the only review on this bike, or especially for assembly, this might be really the only guide to assemble this thing. So yeah, but overall, you know, the company here, this is actually a pretty cool company as far as customer service goes. The last thing I want to talk about with direct order only is there can be a communication barrier. It can be kind of hard to understand these companies to get questions answered, but that's not the case with Hill Topper. The customer service is, I would say, above average. They answer the phone very quickly. I called from several different numbers just to kind of test it, to make sure they weren't just giving me special treatment or something. They answer the phone, they're knowledgeable about their products, they're helpful, they're kind, and it was just a good experience overall. So with that said, I would say let's dive into this bike and check it out. So some of this is going to be a little bit similar to the City Ultra. The primary thing here is going to be the motor and the battery. Whoops, that's similar here. So just like the City Ultra, this is a Bafang 350 watt motor with 80 newton meters of torque. So, you know, it's actually a pretty peppy motor. It's Hill Topper branded, but it is Bafang, and I've really come to like the Bafang motors, and 350 watts it's pretty powerful. I mean, it's not like a monster of a motor, but it's kind of like in between that like power sipper, that super efficient 250 watt motor, and then kind of that higher wattage 500, 750, 1000 watt stuff like that. But with this motor here, when I use the throttle, it really does help me top hills. I mean, this thing, it does have a pretty good amount of oomph to help with the hill climbs. And again, just real quick, this is a throttle only electric bike, guys. There's no cadence sensor here, there's no pedal assist. It's just motor, battery, throttle. That's really the only electrical component. So there's no display, there's no feedback. It's just super basic, super simple. And you know, part of me does like that because it just makes it really easy to operate. It's just a super simple bike. Of course, the downside to that is I have no idea how fast I'm going, right? No control center. I have no idea how much battery I have left. And again, there's no pedal assist, so no pedal assist mode, anything like that. So that, of course, is the downside. One thing I do like about this throttle is it is hot from 0 miles per hour. So I'll try to lift this up again to show you guys. Boom. Yeah. I really like that. It just makes getting going from a dead stop a lot easier. It makes starting from the bottom of a hill really easy, and I use this throttle here especially when I am climbing stairs. I'll kind of just feather the throttle and just let the motor assist the bike up the stairs, and that's really helpful for me. This isn't you know, a super heavy bike. It's 49 pounds, I think 49.2 pounds, and that's not too bad, especially considering it does have this suspension up here. This is a Suntour XCM suspension with about 80 millimeters of travel. It does have preload adjust right here on the left side, so I can turn this dial to make the suspension stiffer or a little bit looser. So for me, I'm 200 pounds. I typically will stiffen it up a little bit. On the other side, there is lockout. So if I wanted to, I can turn it all the way and I can basically lock out the shocks. It means there's gonna be no suspension. That's kind of nice if I want to just increase the overall efficiency. If I'm going on really flat, smooth ground, I don't need the suspension. But I mean, what's funny about this bike, guys, is look, this is called the Folder mountain bike, the Folder MTB. You know, to me, it doesn't really feel like a mountain bike though. I mean, look, we got these 26-inch by 1.5-inch tires. So that's a starter, okay? Now, the smaller tire size, that does mean that this motor is going to have a better mechanical advantage compared to a taller tire. But it does also mean that it's going to increase the attack angle, which means that going over smaller bumps is going to be more pronounced and more difficult to go over than a taller tire as well. You know, smaller tires, there's not a lot of air volume in this, right? So this is not going to act as a lot of suspension. I think a max PSI here is about 65 PSI, so not super high, but not a lot of suspension qualities to these tires here. The other thing is that kind of makes me feel like this isn't really a mountain bike is the frame, right? This is a folding frame. So am I really going to take this thing off-road and do some like serious stuff with it? Me personally, I'm not going to, because I would feel like this frame is going to be compromised structurally, just because of, you know, it's a folder. And especially with this frame in particular, the latching mechanism it's okay. You know, we got this thing right here, just pop it and it starts to fold. We do have a little bit of a safety, this little plastic piece right here. I want to get a quick shot of the other side so you can see how this thing works. So this plastic piece will come down like that, and then it does prevent this latch from popping off all the way, but it still can pop halfway, you know? So if I'm going over really rough terrain, I would just be worried about that. And then the last thing is, well, you know, this motor in the front, I did notice some wheel slip with this on the ground. I took this thing on some gravelly trails, some dirt trails, and on any sort of incline, I was noticing wheel slip. I didn't see that on the City Ultra, probably because there's taller tires on that, and honestly, I didn't take that one off-road at all. So yeah, is this really an off-road machine? Probably not. Now, it does have 21 gears though, so there is that. I mean, could you use this for some serious hill climbs? Yeah, I suppose you could. I mean, look, I've got three chainrings in the front here. I believe it's a 42, a 34, and a 24 chainrings up front, and 7 speeds in the rear cassette, 14 to 28 spread. So, you know, there's a lot of little gaps here to this 3 chainring setup here, and you know, that's just, for me, I feel like it's a little bit unnecessary, kind of overkill, because look, I've got the motor. I mean, that's kind of what an electric bike is for, to kind of fill in the gaps between the gears. So, you know, having this extra derailleur up here up front, and this is a Shimano Tourney derailleur, guys, for both of these, as opposed to the City Ultra, which has a Shimano Alivio, which is quite a few steps higher than the Tourney. So a little bit surprising that this bike costs a couple $100 more for this frame, and yet the components are a little bit lower, a little bit more entry level here, right? Now my guess is the reason for that is because there's 2 derailleurs, one up front and one in the rear, so I'm guessing twice the cost. Maybe they had to kind of save a little bit and lower the put more of the entry level components here. Now, one of the good things about this, having a derailleur up front, look, it does add more complexity to this machine. It does add more weight. However, having this derailleur up here in the front, it does kind of act as a chain guide. So there's really not a lot of possibility of this chain popping off towards the inside or even towards the outside, because I've got this plastic kind of chain guard here on this side. So that's kind of a cool feature about this. And just real quick, for I guss a tip or something that what I found is I have been really keeping this in the middle chain ring here. Up front, I think the 34 tooth chain ring, and then I've just been using the rear cassette to flip through the gears here. That's how I've been riding it, and it's worked out pretty well. I just haven't found much need to be using that the different chain rings up there. So, you know, again, maybe just a little bit of overkill there, and for me personally, I think it might be better to just stick with the Alivio derailleur, like on the City Ultra. That might be kind of a better option for future models, but as it stands, again, there are some benefits to having it like that. So yeah, and then we do have the trigger shifters up here on both sides. We've got on the left hand side for the chain rings, for the 3 chain rings, and then on the right hand side, this is how we switch through the rear cassette. So let's talk about real quick, here's an assembly point. So to assemble this, the handlebars are off, they're not on the stem here, so I have to put the handlebars in the stem first. That's pretty straightforward, but getting the throttle on is a little bit tricky. It was for me the first time, because I wasn't really sure how to do it. So here was my steps to kind of getting this throttle on here. This bike wants to tip over. Okay, so first thing I did was loosen the shifter, and I scooted it all the way towards the inside, or towards the center of the stem. I loosened this brake cluster right here, same thing, scooted it all the way towards the inside, and then these grips, they are locking grips, which is nice. So there's actually lockers on both sides, so they're pretty secure. It's a nice little safety feature, so they're really not going to move around pretty much no matter how hard I torque on them. So then I unscrewed the lockers here. I took off the grip, and then I put the throttle right here, as you can see. So it's right after the grip, but before the brake cluster and the gear shifter. So for me, with this setup, that just seemed to make the most sense, because I'm going to use the throttle the most here, so I want it to be closest to my thumb, so I'm not reaching real hard, getting thumb strain. But it does make shifting with the chain rings a little bit tricky. There's not a whole lot of room here on this side to really to switch gears. So, you know, that's just kind of the name of the game here, I think, with this. And then this side was free. Of course, look, I could put it on this side too, but I just chose to put it on the left side. But if you wanted to put it on the right side, it would be the same thing, just in the opposite order. Oh, we got an ambulance somewhere. Hopefully these guys are all right. A lot of ambulances, I feel like, whenever I'm filming. Maybe it's like a bad omen. Okay, now the brakes here on this bike, they're pretty good brakes. They are Shimano hydraulic brakes, so that's cool. Hydraulic brakes are going to have more stopping power, generally speaking, compared to mechanical disc brakes. These are 180 millimeter discs in the front and in the rear, and yeah, it's got pretty good stopping power. And the cool thing is with these is I can adjust the brake levers here. I can bring them in, I can let them out, and that's just nice to really fine tune it. You know, if I want it, it just makes it so I can really kind of customize it a little bit. So I dig that. Now, the only thing about these brakes is there's no motor inhibitors here. So that's kind of a really big safety feature that I think is lacking. And same thing with the City Ultra. And it just means that this actually happened to me. I found myself doing this where I would be using the throttle and I'd also be braking at the same time. And I think it's just because I've grown so accustomed to motor inhibitors, cutting off the power to the motors, that sometimes I just forget. So that's just something to keep in mind, guys, is that when using this bike, there are no motor inhibitors. So just be careful to really be conscious of letting go of the throttle whenever you're braking, not only to save the brake pads, but also for safety, just to ensure that, you know, you have the shortest possible stopping distance, which is just really important here. And I just want to kind of get a close shot of the wiring. Most of this was pre-done. The shifters, the brakes, these were pre-done, but the one part of the wiring that I did add here is going to be the motor cable and the throttle cable. So this does come with some zip ties and some kind of like Velcro straps. So what I did is kind of got all these cables on here and I just secured them with this little thing right here, and I used a couple zip ties along the frame just to keep the wires nice and snug. So again, this is another one of those things where you do have to assemble it yourself. Getting the cables on, I found, was pretty easy. You know, there's two male ports here that come with this power cable, but each port is different and it only goes into its respective female port. So that's nice. There's no way to really confuse it or mess that up. And I also want to point out here kind of how I did this. So motor cable comes out right here by the dropouts, and I just kind of brought it up, tried to hug it as close as I could to the forks. Got a zip tie right here below the connector, right here above the connector. Brought it up to the stem or to the arch and got a zip tie there. And then basically, yeah, that's what it looks like. So the cable stays here are a little bit better than I think than the ones on the City Ultra. I was able to kind of get the cables in here, and they look better. There was more room. I think one of the reasons for that is I didn't have to double back here with the power cable because it wasn't extra long like it was in the City Ultra. So that's cool. I dig that. It just makes it look a little bit cleaner, especially since, look, these are going to be all exposed wires. There's no internally routed wires. So yeah. Now with the battery here, this is a 36 volt, 11 amp hour battery. It's about 399 watt hours. And getting this battery on, getting it attached to the frame, there's a couple of little tips here that I want to share about this. So let's see. Well, first of all, let's actually go over the battery real quick. So this is the only electronic feedback that's on this bike. It's a 5-tick LED battery indicator right here. So to turn the battery on, to turn the electronics on the bike, just push that. To turn it off, same. So now it's off, and to turn it back on, just same thing, one push. So there's not a timeout with this battery. So if I leave it on after I'm done riding, it's going to stay on until it drains the battery dead. So I just want to always make sure when I'm done riding this thing, just turn the battery off, just like that, and then that way I'm going to save some juice. The charging port is down here in the bottom, as well as the key to unlock this. This is a locking removable battery. Now with the with the charging port right here and the key port, there's just a lot of potential to damage this battery because the cranks are really in the way here, guys. So when I take this battery out, I immediately take out the key. When I'm done, actually I don't even charge this thing on the bike because I don't want to risk messing it up and hitting the charging cable. So I actually take this battery off to charge it. So just definitely be careful of this. So let's go and take this battery off real quick, and you'll actually see right here that I got a little bit of pedal lock. That's because the kickstand here is actually right here in the middle of the frame. Not the best position. It does result in pedal lock, and then to free it I have to actually kind of tilt the bike over and, you know, spin the cranks the other way. So at least, I mean, it is an adjustable kickstand. So there's a screw here on the back right here. I can loosen this and I can extend this part or bring it in if I want to change that. So that's kind of cool. But so let's take this thing off. Here's the keys. It comes with 2. You can see right here. Now I'm going to try to carefully remove this. I mean, you can see, look how close that is even to the chain ring there. It's just really close. So give us a turn. Oops. Carefully. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so now we got the battery off the bike here. This is what it looks like. It's still on. To turn it off, I'm just going to turn it back off. There we go. You can see that's how it, let's get a better shot here. You can see that's how it seats right there. And yeah, that's the battery. So now that we have that off, this is the battery mounting bracket and the controller right here. And actually, I'm going to take these keys out before I forget because I don't want to damage this. So let's just, oh, goodness gracious, come on. Let's just take this out. Oh, it's a really tight fit. Okay. Okay, so for getting this thing on, this is another one of those like points for assembly here. This comes not attached to the frame, and there's three eyelets right here, 3 little bosses, one here in the middle and one on top, and there's 3 screws that are already in here in the frame when it comes out of the box. Just so don't use those screws because they're round head screws and they protrude too far up. And they're not flush here with the base, and the battery will not slip on. So just remove those screws. There's going to be 2 flathead screws that are, well, 4 total, 2 long ones and 2 shorter ones. Grab the 2 longer ones and then use those, and you'll see that that screw is pretty much flush there with the mounting plate. So that's what needs to happen. And then when that does happen, I can actually put the battery on and it will seat correctly. So the bosses here, 2 of them, the top one and the bottom one, they didn't seem to be threaded quite correctly, so I wasn't able to actually get the screws in. So right now there's only 1 screw holding this bracket on, which is kind of unfortunate because there are 3 holes, and you can see, you know, with a little bit of lateral force here, this thing does move around. Maybe that might be just for this individual frame, or maybe that's a defect. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But let's go ahead and get this thing back on. To get it on, just kind of put it almost to the bottom, and just a nice little push down, make sure it's secure. Great, good to go. And that's it. And then turn it back on, same thing, just gonna push that, and this bike is back to life. And then here's the charger for this. This is a 1.8 amp charger. It's kind of small, kind of cute, lightweight, which is nice, but a little bit less output than an average 2 amp charger, so it's gonna charge a little bit slower than average. But it is lightweight and it's small, so it's pretty easy to just throw in a bag. That is kind of a pro there with that, I think. These pedals here, real quick, these are folding pedals. They're plastic kind of platform folding pedals, and they got these little serrations right here. They're a little bit narrow for my feet. I have pretty large feet, and my feet kind of fell asleep after a while. Wellgo makes some other pedals like this. I think they're a little bit higher quality. I like those better, but this is how they operate, just like that. They're stuck. Bring them down. There we go. Yeah, see, they're just a little sticky. There we go. How I did that there, guys, was just there's a little release right here. I put my finger in, squeeze, and that's how they kind of move up and down. So that is nice, though, for when I do want to fold this thing. Just makes it a little bit narrower, makes it easier to store this in a tight space. So there's a rack back here in the back. This was pretty easy to assemble. And this is the same rack that is on the City Ultra, just an aluminum rack here. Yeah, kind of pannier blockers, I guess, but not a whole lot of accessories here. But, you know, it works. This rack works, so I will give it that. Let's see, what else? Let's talk about this saddle and this seat post again. So this seat post is 400 millimeters, longer than average. Most are about 350. So it does go up quite a bit. That's pretty high. But again, it doesn't go all the way down, and that's just... It just means that the minimum saddle height here is going to be higher than if it did go all the way down. That might make it harder for folks who want to put their feet flat on the ground, you know, while they're in the saddle at a stop. You know, because the standover height here is a little bit lower than average because we got the 26-inch wheels and we've got this kind of sloped, you know, top tube, main tube, whatever you want to call it. So it would be cool if there was like a dropout at the bottom, so this thing could extend all the way down, drop, so it's flush to the quick release there. That'd be sweet. So again, unfolding this thing, it is easy. It's basically just a quick two-step process. Flip that up, boom, pull the latch, and that's, oops, well, it's spring-loaded, which is nice, so it does kind of pop back. Once this latch is open, let's see if I can do this one-handed here. This piece right here is pretty tight. And what's cool about this is it is relatively narrow and close to the frame. So some folding electric bikes, the place where it folds right here, it's kind of wide, and so it's easier to get knee strikes when I'm pedaling. But this is, it's not flush to the frame, but it's pretty close, so that is going to minimize knee strikes there. So that's nice. Okay, so folding. Oh, let me do it. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is the bike folded right here. The dimensions are going to be actually pretty similar to when it's unfolded. The only dimension that's really going to change is going to be the length, obviously, because it's folded in half. So I'm going to unfold this just so I can put it back. It's pretty stiff, guys. Oh my goodness gracious. Here we go. I got this. I got this. Oh my goodness. Okay. Almost there. There we go. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm like out of breath from trying to fold that thing now. Yes, the folded dimensions are actually pretty similar. Height is going to be the same. Width is going to be pretty much the same. The only thing that's different is the length. So to me, because these handlebars, they don't, you know, unfold like on some folding bikes where they fold down and just make for a real narrow unfolded version. So with this, like, I think this would be great for throwing it in the back of like an SUV, maybe even like a trunk of a car when it's folded. You know, for folks who don't have bike racks, like, which I don't have a bike rack, like this could be really handy. And like, I think this could be really good too for people that this frame fits them, right? The 16-inch frame, people who like this color, this might be a good option because it is still pretty affordable for what it offers, $13.99. But again, for those folks who this doesn't fit for people where maybe they don't like the frame, well, there's always the option of just kind of sticking with what Hill Topper started as, which is a kit company, right? So for those of you who don't like this size, who don't like this color, you can easily just pick up the motor, the battery, the throttle, and then just assemble this all yourself with your own frame. You could pick out the exact frame you want, the exact size, the exact color. Maybe you already have one. So I mean, I actually think that does make it does. Hill Topper has more options that way. So I like that they sell this separately. Of course, that does always run the risk that maybe everything won't fit quite right if you use your own frame. So there is always that aspect of, look, sometimes it's easier just to grab everything at one place. But you know, yeah, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But look, I think we've pretty much exhausted everything on this bike. Sorry this was a little bit long, guys. I just really wanted to make sure that I called out really kind of all of the assembly points that I thought were a little bit tricky too, because like I said, I just really wanted to save you guys time, some frustration, because this does take a little bit extra time to put this together. Not too long, maybe 3 hours or so, but that's definitely longer than, you know, 15 minutes to really an hour for most electric bikes that I put together. So with that said, let's take this thing for a quick test ride. So this first shot is to give you guys an example, first of all, of just what the bike looks like in action. Secondly, this is a really good way to kind of hear the motor in operation. It's not the quietest motor in the world, but I feel like this clip does make it sound a little bit louder than it is in real life. Also, something I didn't mention in the review portion, but I want to mention here, is that with the motor in the front wheel here, that extra 7.5 pounds or so does become pronounced while I'm steering. I can feel the resistance, that extra weight, and it just makes the bike overall a little bit less nimble. This shot is going to be of the suspension, and again, 80 millimeters of travel here. Is this really a hardcore mountain bike? Probably not, but just as you just saw, going over curves, some small bumps, stuff like that, it does excel at dampening the shocks from that. You can also really see that wheel wobble I was talking about earlier. And again, not really Hill Topper's fault. That's probably more of the shipping company's fault, but you know, just kind of the name of the game for getting stuff direct order to the door. This one, I'm just going to switch up and down through the gears here, the front chainring and the rear cassette. And you should notice here in a second, maybe it's on the next clip, but the front chainring does have a little bit of trouble getting into the top gear there. Sometimes it wants to actually hop onto the chain guard, that little plastic section, and it misses that top chainring altogether. And really that kind of just goes back to what I was talking about, where, you know, this second derailleur up front, kind of unnecessary. It just adds for a little more complexity, a little bit more weight, and really, I typically stay in the second chainring. I don't really use it that much when I'm actually riding. Alright guys, that is it for the Hill Topper Folder mountain bike review. Hopefully you guys dug this review. Hopefully you're having an awesome day. Like I always say, sometimes I just really hope that these reviews for you guys might be a way to just take a break from the daily grind, maybe kind of just disconnect from everything, geek out on bikes like me and Court love to do. We love this. We love that you guys sharing it with us. It's really cool. If you have any comments or feedback on this, please of course leave it in the comments and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. But real quick to summarize here for this bike, the Folder mountain bike here, it runs for $13.99. The name is a bit of a misnomer. I don't think this is really a mountain bike. It's kind of the jack of all trades. It's got suspension, so can it go off-road? Yes. Is it great at off-road? No. It's a smaller frame, so is it going to be the most efficient bike with the best riding posture? No, but it is still relatively comfortable. So maybe the jack of all trades, but the master of none is kind of what we got going on here with this bike. This would be cool, I think, for shorter distances, for people who are traveling. This could be a really, really good option, especially for those who do not have bike racks, but maybe have an SUV or a bigger trunk. This thing could just fold in half and you just throw it in there, you know? But again, one frame size, one color. You just got to kind of keep reiterating that here. So if this doesn't fit for you guys, again, there is always the option of just picking up the motor and the battery and the throttle here from Hill Topper and then just putting on the frame of your choice. So yeah. There's options here with this bike, hopefully options that will work for you guys. And yeah, so that's it. Have a great day. If you are going out to ride, have fun, ride safe. For the full write-up, head over to ElectricBikeReview.com. All right, guys, have a good one.